This is the Pulsebeat. It's said that every inspiration starts with a spark, and we're here to ignite a fire. Join us as we showcase conversations from esteemed experts in a multitude of specialties. You'll find experts discussing topics that stimulate, inspire, and encourage. From the famous and familiar to the lesser known, the Pulsebeat will be your go-to for stirring up a sense of truth and optimism. A podcast that pulses truth with every interview and story, bringing hope into dark places.
Well, welcome everybody to the podcast that is taking America by storm. And you're going to be hearing some amazing stories today from this amazing gentleman. We talk about the Barrio brand that's starting out there and rolling across the country. And not only, he's going to tell you a little bit about himself, but we have my cohort here, Mr. Josh Hewlett, and he's going to share a little bit as well. And so we're going to be talking about the miracles of life starting in 2025. We're going to be talking about some of the challenges, addressing some of the challenges that you all are having out there and maybe having in the past. But once you hear this gentleman and his story and his journey, you're going to be so amazed and inspired. You know, 2025 is coming up on us, and sometimes we look back and say, we might have not done everything perfectly, but here we are heading into 2025. Once you hear his story, you are going to be so inspired because it's going to be so different than probably the challenges that we have on a daily basis. So welcome, Dr. Robert.
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic. You've had a busy year, haven't you?
It was like a roller coaster this year, yes.
Well, maybe for those, I have on my desk here, I have everything that you have wrote and produced, and we have Little Barrio, and we have the second edition coming up. But I think it's important for people to really get to know who you are, what you've accomplished in your lifetime. And if we go through this, if you go through your book and your chapters, and every single one of them, I was coming back from Chicago on the airplane after I met you, and I read the whole book. I read one before I left. I read the second one when I came back. But you truly have had a very colorful life, and how you represent the Latinos in America. And that is very, very impressive. And I know that things are happening in the Republican Party for you, and you're making things happen. So maybe we can start with, you talk about your wonder years in your book. I mean, start wherever you'd like to for people to get to know you and who you are.
Well, thank you for the time. I really appreciate that. I learned a long time ago when I heard Oprah Winfrey said, tell your story so we could all be healed. So I told my story.
Yes.
And when the book came out, my life did a 180. See, I grew up in the barrio of East Los Angeles, the hood, and we were born into poverty. My mother, when she got married, she didn't know my father was doing drugs. She believed in blue skies and butterflies. Her life doesn't work that way. So she found out he was a heroin addict and alcoholic. He left our family when I was only 3 years old. And the only legacy he left us was a pile of bills and a bunch of empty bottles of booze in the trash can. My mother working 2-3 jobs to make sure myself and my little sister did not become part of a system. At the age of 6, I had a terrible accident. I almost died. I had to go to school for the physically disabled and the mentally challenged because I could not walk, talk, or read or write. But I recovered after 3 years. The doctor said it was 1 in a million that I made it out. And then my mother remarries at 9,
Well,
and
if
the
I could
nightmare starts.
ask you a question real quick. When you're talking about your terrible accident and your head was, you described your head was, open, and you had to go back to rehabilitation, and how you were with those children all around you that were very disturbed and they were having challenges. And we talk about what's going on in America today with the autism and different situations that none of us were prepared for. Can you speak into that before we move on to the next subject?
Yes, I was in a freak accident. I got off of a ride called the Octopus. I was at a carnival, and they said that I went back into the ride, and I came out. When I came out, they had started the ride, and it swung around and hit me on the right side of the head, and it lunged me some 50 feet, and I suffered a compound fracture. And I was laying on the ground, bleeding profusely, and people were running around. It was like pandemonium, chaos. There was people screaming and fainting, and the ambulance came to get me and took me to a hospital, and that hospital was not equipped to take care of me. So they took me to a second hospital. By chance of a miracle, there was a doctor there performing brain surgery on someone else. They rushed him in. And after, I think it was like 6 hours of surgery, and I slipped into a coma. And some days later, 4 or 5 days later, I woke up and I was tied around barrage of tubes and wires. And my mother was standing over me, saying, I knew God would not take my only son. But so I couldn't talk, or they had to send me to a school, and went through this rehab. And there were people there missing arms and legs, and you know, kids that were deformed, couldn't talk, and it was traumatic. It was nothing like I'd ever seen before out of even a movie. And I don't think that the hospital or the school was equipped to take care of people with those injuries at that time. This was like 1966. So yeah, that memory and those nightmares, still I carry them with me even today. Sometimes there's demons under my bed talking to me because it was traumatic. I mean, I don't wish that upon anybody, which is why when I met you, you saw that I'm mentoring someone right now who's a paraplegic, because that's very near and dear to me, because God blessed my
Yes,
life and allowed
yes.
me to go forward. And this girl that you met, Leslie, who was hit by a drunk driver 18 years ago, she didn't get that blessing, but she's out there trying to make a difference. And for that, I'm blessed and humbled.
Well, you have a similar story, Josh, when you went through a health challenge of your own, and your father started the company Cardio Miracle, and you experienced miracles too as well, correct?
Sorry, absolutely, yes. When I was telling Dr. Robert when we were talking earlier about when I was diagnosed with MS with 27 lesions on my brain, and then 6 months after I started a nitric oxide therapy product and taking acai berry and greens and really taking care of my juicing whole fruits and vegetables, they came back and they said I had no more lesions, and but they said maybe our lenses were dirty, so we probably misdiagnosed you. So,
Wow. Wow.
Well, our
but
lenses aren't
I,
dirty, and we're heading into 2025, so there you go.
yeah, and I continue to, that was way back in 2009 when I was diagnosed with MS, misdiagnosed, and now I've had so many opportunities to spread the message and share my story and talk about just what I believe my second chance. And I didn't get a chance to tell you, Dr. Robert, that I used to be a strongman competitor. So I was almost 500 pounds, and I was lifting cars and flipping telephone poles,
Wow.
and I've recently, in the past, since 2021, I've lost almost 200 pounds through intermittent fasting and Cardio Miracle, and
Wow.
just because I want to take care of myself as a 40-year-old. So,
Good
yeah,
for you.
it really enhanced my life immensely. It's been amazing.
That's incredible. And we hear miracles all the time. I remember the first time I heard, Doc's story about you can't fit everything into a couple books here. I know that. But, when you talk about your journey and how you came from where you came from, and then you ended up in the hood, right? I mean, you ended up in really LA, and you ended up in a gang. And that was kind of an interesting journey for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, after my mother got married, and I ran away from home, and I found a new dysfunctional family called gangs, and I started running and gunning, stealing and dealing, and doing things I'm not so proud of now. Like robbing houses and stealing cars and selling drugs and doing drugs. And then my father died when I was 17 years old on Skid Row in Los Angeles. He was homeless, and he was a heroin addict and alcoholic. In fact, the only thing he had to his name when I went to the halfway house was he had a dollar bill and a crucifix and a handkerchief.
Oh,
That's all he owned to his name. But in his room was another bunch of empty bottles of booze in the trash can. So I got involved in drugs for a while, and I make a joke about it, tongue in cheek, right? I wasn't really a drug dealer. I was trying to make money because girls are expensive, so I needed some money to take these girls out on dates, and that's literally what it was really all about. But I made a drug deal that went bad, and I decided to give my life to Christ, and I said, God, if you let me live, I'll sin no more. And I made the best decision of my life at that time, and I joined the military. And I honorably served our country for over 7 years as a non-commissioned officer. I ended up spearheading the reactivation of the 3rd Special Forces Group at Fort Bragg. I was an elite soldier. And then after 7 years, 3 months, 8 days, 14 hours, and about 13 minutes, I got out and I went home. and I ran into the same gangbangers, but they had elevated their game to dealing some really heavy drugs, and some were doing time in a federal penitentiary, doing 25 to life. So I knew a guy in Chicago, and I came here with $200 in a duffel bag, and I got a job in the commercial laundromat industry, selling equipment to laundromats. And I progressed pretty quickly, and after 5 years, I got recruited, and I became vice president of a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange. And after I climbed that ladder of corporate America for 6 years, I was having a drink one night. I said, I want to have a shot. And I didn't mean like a shot of tequila, brandy, or bourbon. I have a shot and start my own business. And I started my own laundromat business. And after 3 years, we were the #1 distribution company in the United States. And I thought I had arrived. I mean, I thought I had everything I ever wanted. I grew up sleeping on the floor in a smelly mattress in a musty basement to having a house on a pond. And I used to ride a bike or take a bus or hitchhike and or walk everywhere. I had a Mercedes Benz, and too much is given, much is obligated and expected. So I said, I want to give back. And so I wrote a book wanting to help some gang kids who were walking down the same path I was walking. And little did I know that when the book was born, God had another plan. And my life did a 180, and now it's going on 18 years later. And, we've become more of an anomaly, right? We're in schools and prisons and libraries and detention centers and homeless shelter, battered women's shelters, police probation. It's all over the board. And we just got endorsed by the World Boxing Council, who mentors boys and girls ages 8 to 18 in 176 countries. So the world is open up, and, God has a sense of humor because I don't have any biological children, but I figure now I have about 3.5 million worldwide.
Oh my goodness. Isn't that incredible? We have so many athletes that are doing really well, because one thing that happens when you train hard, or Josh knows this as well, you train hard, or you're attempting to make your goals and so on, your body becomes depleted, right? And nowadays we look at post-COVID, we're more depleted today than ever before.
Right.
But what an honor for you to be visiting with you about what you're able to do for these kids, and of course all of the communities and the foundations that you're working with. And I understand that there's a movie coming out, right?
Oh gosh, yes. We
That's
just signed
exciting.
with Intrigue Films. It's a faith-based film production company, and we also, I haven't told you this, but we were speaking to One Nation Under God, and they're in 100 countries. So we're going to get the faith world behind us, but the goal is to help kids worldwide. And in my books, I've written about God in my book. And in the last 18 years, nobody has ever said anything. So it's my goal that we're going to put God back into the classrooms.
I love that. Now you have a family, Josh, over there in Utah. And wouldn't it be incredible if our kids were reading, Bob's book and really getting them to understand that there's so much more behind the flag and the cross. And it has to do with us picking it up.
And putting that at the forefront of, of the educational system. I go to these book fairs that my daughter brings me to. I've got an 11-year-old daughter, and she's so excited about these book fairs, but I'm looking at these titles of these books, just shaking my head. And I'm like, I hope she's not, and she's not, she's got a good head on her shoulders. She's not thinking these weird books about, all the different, controversial, subjects, but, more, she just wants to stay like a kid, and read, the Big Red Dog and stuff. But I'd love for her to get her hands on some of these incredible books that you've written there, Dr. Robert.
Thank you. Yeah.
We'll make sure you get a set, Josh. And when I was listening to Robert, I met him on the phone over a month or so ago, and then we met in Chicago, and I understood really what how big his reach was. And not only did we meet the boxers, and you're their hero, and because a lot of the fight happens between your ears. You guys were talking about that, how the fight happens between your ears, and so how you're able to help them on all levels. And then when you're also helping those that can't help themselves, like the beautiful woman in the wheelchair and different, individuals such as that. Tell us what's going on right now with the Latinos and our government and the Republican Party. I know you're closely connected to that as well.
Yeah. What happened was they lost a couple of elections out here in where I live. And that's because they were doing absolutely no outreach, absolutely no ground game or no interest to be participating. They want to vote, but they don't want to do the work. And I was trying to teach them that if you break bread, you go red. And so I've been working with them, giving them a different perspective. So I spoke with the new Illinois GOP chair, and she's all over this. In fact, I'm proud to say that in the mail today, she arranged that Barrio would receive a $5,000 grant so we can get a lot of books to a lot of kids here in Illinois. So she's talking the talk and walking the walk, and I'm proud of her for doing so. The National Republican Hispanic Assembly we've been speaking, and there's an interest to have me serve as an advisor to that party nationwide. So I think that we are making some inroads and we are making progress because what we're doing isn't working. So you've heard that thing. It's just more of insanity. I said, you guys are like running on a treadmill. You're not going anywhere. You're mistaking motion for action. So I'm thinking that they're listening, and I think that we're going to have a different game going forward. And my goal is to work with when you talk about DC with HUD. I was on the table with Ben Carson, and when Donald Trump did not get elected, it fell off the table. Now I have a commitment that once Trump gets back in office, they're going to put it back on the table to do urban outreach with Barrio across the United States.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely amazing. This is so fantastic to bring good companies and good people together. We're going to give a shout out to our sponsor, Cardio Miracle. You had a chance to taste it and experience it when I was there. What did you think?
I think that the thing about the athletic performance, I think that's boosting energy. I think getting rid of fatigue. I think that's amazing because your body does wear down, right? And you got to put some good stuff into your body.
And then we were talking about no caffeine, no sugar, all the rest and the dyes and all the the chemicals and toxins that are in so many of the energy drinks. Now, Josh, I know years ago you used to drink an energy drink here and there, but your father made this amazing product. Can you share with everybody a little bit about it?
Yeah, thank you. I did. I used to drink, 2 or 3 energy drinks a day. I think I was more addicted to the carbonation rather than the feeling that like an energy drink gave me. But the caffeine is real. What I decided to do was to wake up every morning and my first drink of the day is Cardio Miracle. And what that did is that satiated me enough so that I could stop the energy drinks. And then that, like, Cardio Miracle doesn't really give me tons of energy. It just clears the brain fog for me, helps me stay focused, and it makes me feel healthy and alive. And then with my workouts that I do now and how I've lost 200 pounds through intermittent fasting, and I work out every day, like this non-negotiable. I either go at 4 or 5 in the morning. I'll either go like this morning at 4 in the morning. I got up and went for a 5.5 mile walk just to start my day. And it's the best way for me to start. And the first drink is Cardio Miracle. And I haven't had an energy drink in a long while, and I haven't missed it at all. It's not temptation.
Well, think about what nitric oxide does for somebody that is performing, right? For a performance, we look at some of the other performance enhancing nutrients, but nitric oxide is so wildly important to the overall performance because it increases blood flow. And so as an athlete, we know what happens if you don't increase your blood flow. There ends up being to be some challenges. So with over 700 ingredients, with over 700 nutrients, over 58 ingredients, we're really hitting all cylinders with the product. And I think when you talk about schools, Robert, imagine having a healthy drink in the schools for our kids rather than Gatorade or some of the other ones, which have they have the dyes and they have the sucralose and all the rest in it.
I think this would be great. I'd like to do a deeper dive with you on this.
Yeah.
See how we can partner and collaborate on this. Definitely want to make sure we're putting good things into our kids' bodies.
Absolutely. You're giving everything good in their heart and their head. So what's next for Robert? I know that you've accomplished a lot. I'm looking at your curriculum over here, and I know that you're going to be going and taking this to many, many places. What's next on the Robert to-do list?
Well, I'd like to get into legislation and get it mandated so every kid in America reads the Barrio books. That's a goal. I want to let the listeners know that we have curriculum for the middle schools and high schools that we donate at no cost. And we also have a faith-inspired curriculum to get kids in the Bible study to lead them to Christ so they too could see the promised land. That's donated at no cost. So if people reach out to me, and I'll send it to you electronically. In 2018, they took 2.5 billion with a B, billion dollars away from after school programs. So there's a dire need for culturally relevant programming. And I'm here to be an asset and a resource for parents, teachers, principals, superintendents across the country and around the world. So, if they want to reach out to me, I'm going to just throw my number out there. And if they want to call, they call me at 312-933-5619. And my website, if you want to take a look at some videos and some testimonials there, it's www.fromthebarrio, that's from the barrio, BARRIO.com.
And it really is impressive what you've been able to put together in these last few years. What are some of, before we close here, I know that time's getting away from us, but can you share with everybody some of your most unusual cases that you've come across that you're helping children with?
Well, there's a story I'll share with you briefly. I was talking to freshmen in a college, and they were using my book in the criminal justice course. And at the end, I always do a Q&A and autographs, and this girl came up to me. She goes, "I have a question for you." And so, "What's that?" She goes, "How did you forgive your stepfather?" Because I was abused. And I said, "Well, the greatest gift you give anybody in life is forgiveness. Why do you ask?" She goes, "I can't forgive my mother." And I said, "Why not?" And then she starts to shake. She starts to cry. I said, "What's wrong?" And I held her. She goes, "I can't forgive my mother because she knows my stepfather has been molesting me since I was in the 5th grade." And I said, "Have you ever told anybody?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Why not?" She goes, "I was afraid he'd do it to my little sister." So
Oh,
I,
wow.
I, I had that family turned in and arrested and taken to prison, and I got to meet their grandparents, and they're now living with their grandparents, and I have a relationship with them. So that's one story of many,
Wow.
many stories. I was at a school talking to 8th graders, and this little girl came up to me. She goes, "Mr. Renteira, I really loved your book." And I said, "Thank you." She goes, "I was going to kill myself until I read your book." So he saved a life that day. So, this is God's work, right?
Wow.
I'm just the messenger. I'm serving. And God is opening doors, and we're saving kids, and we're saving adults, and saving and changing lives, literally.
That's fantastic. Hey, Josh, he might even send you a Barrio hat.
I need it. So I don't get so the sun doesn't keep beating down on my bald head. Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, this is really growing. And again, the movie's going to be coming out. You're going to be going and representing. What are the greatest needs right now for the Latino communities?
Well, I think that opportunity, one thing that I've learned in working with the Republican Party is they were far removed. And I'm just literally, I said about I'm going to be talking to one nation under God, but that's what it's really all about for me. I'm trying to unite everybody. Real quick, I was in Ferguson, Missouri, talking to 2,000 kids about breaking the racial divide. And when it was over, they pulled me in the conference room. The superintendent, principal, teacher, counselor said, "What just happened here?" And I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, they acted towards you. They love you, and you're not black." And I said, "Kids don't know color. Kids know love." So I want us to love each other and take care of each other because that's how the foundation of this world was built. And if we build on that foundation, Lisa, then we can be a champion of this place that we call home. Take care of our families, our neighbors, our community, our great city, and then beyond.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Well, I don't know of a better closing than that. Any final words, Josh?
Are you gonna make me follow him? Okay. No, I mean I love that our missions align, Dr. Robert, because our goal is to save. It was to save 1 million lives, and we feel like we've done that and had a part in that. And now, some say we're going to save 100 million lives, but I say we're shooting to save the hearts of mankind. I mean, that's the goal. I mean, because we want everybody to feel empowered enough to take their health into their own hands and really just see that the potential is endless if God is at the helm of your life. And we're so blessed that that John Hewlett has been able to put together this formulation of whole fruits and vegetables, and then we can see people actually heal because they're putting good things into their bodies. So I love the opportunity. Thanks so much for including me, and it's been an honor to get to know you a little bit.
Thank you, Josh.
This is awesome. Well, God bless you both. Go and get the Barrio books. And while you're drinking your Cardi Miracle, you can read them and share them with your family. I can't wait for you to get them, Josh, and start to, delve into them. One last question. I had somebody text me. I told them we were going to be doing a call with you today, and they were ask him about the solution to the gangs that in America today.
Well, at the end of the day, and that's a great question, the Barrio program is an anti-violence prevention program that teaches our kids that gang banging and violence is not a lifestyle but a death style, and that the ultimate weapon in life is not a loaded gun but an educated mind. These are tools that address critical thinking and conflict resolution. This is a piece to that puzzle. So if you have people that you know out there, please have them reach out to me on my cell phone, please. I return all calls, 312-933-5619.
Wow. On that note, God bless you, gentlemen. God bless our listeners and our viewers. We're so honored to team up with people like Doc here and to be able to really make a difference with our children and the future of our country. So thank you again, everybody. Tune in next time for the Pulsebeat. And we're going to have many more guests. And again, Doc's going to come back. He's going to tell us what's going on in about a month or so.
From your lips to God's ears, Lisa.
You got it. Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful day.
Amen.
Thank you.